Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for our live streaming event. Let me just get the frame right there. Can you please type hello if you can hear me? Type yes if you can hear me. Type yes if you can hear me. That way I know that everything's working. Can you type yes, please? Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so this is a free event. So normally, I just want to say hello to our normal subscribers and anyone who's visiting. We normally do 2 live streaming events a month, to each calendar month. And for an hour and a half, I channel Ananda and Jesus. And so we open it up to the public once every few months so that you can get a taste of what we experience all the time. It's creating an amazing seeing people through these troubled times. So if you enjoy this experience and you feel like you would like to have more of it, you can subscribe at channelingjesus.com under channeling live streaming subscription. We have a monthly payment program that you can join. So I just want to address the question issue here. Because I am in and out of consciousness, different consciousness levels, it's very hard for me to channel and address the chat. So the questions have been posed to me by our subscribers in the previous week. So hopefully some of the questions that you have, if you're a visitor, will be answered. If you really have burning questions, you can join us by subscription and pose your questions and they'll get answered. So we start out with an opening statement from Jesus. So I will see you in a little while. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we welcome all of you, old and new, current subscribers and those just checking out to see what all this Jesus business is about. Well, there is no way we can prove to you that we are the one that you know as Jesus, but we will tell you we are not the Jesus from the Bible per se. We have had a very different experience, not only in our physical incarnation, but in our post-physical resurrection body. We are the one you know as Jesus. And we use the word we because where we are, separation has been dealt with. It has been removed through our dedication to the practice of love. And this is what you have been assigned in this incarnation. It is what your incarnation is for. It is to remove everything from your mind that is not loving. But the principles on which this teaching are laid is a little bit more complicated than that. And it is important for those of you that are here for the first time to understand these underlying tenets of non-dualistic teaching. The idea of non-dualism is that you are the creator of everything that you are experiencing, and ultimately there is only one mind seemingly separated into billions and billions of isolated individuals, and you think that you are one of those. So when you think you are completely separated from everything and that you are alone here and that you are separate from love, you are going to die and you are likely going to age and get sick and have a difficult time of things, it is a very, very challenging place to be. And that pain and suffering is what we seek and what we have always sought to eliminate through our current teachings, which were always these teachings. The Bible has distorted and added and twisted and shifted those teachings into what can be quite a distressing mixture of truth and untruth. But the teachings that are coming through this being and the teachings that are contained in our foundational text, which is called A Course in Miracles, are true. That is, you are made from love, for love, by love, and you will suffer if you step away from being loving to yourself and others. And in that loving practice, through forgiveness, because that is the path back to oneness. Through forgiveness, you will return to love, and that is what your journey is. What you are experiencing, most of you, is a mixture of love and not love. And unfortunately, in your society, love is poorly defined. It is often defined as possession. It is often defined as control. It is often defined by the body. But that is not really what love is. Love is knowing that you are with your brothers and sisters and they are all equal to you. Love is knowing that you are a divine being, a fabulous divine aspect of God mind who has chosen for various reasons to come into separation to have this particular experience. Now, one of the many questions that we get asked is, why on earth would we choose to do this? Well, you cannot understand that from the level of consciousness that you have now, because you want to be separate. You want what you're having. And many of you will argue and say, no, I don't. I don't want this body that's ill. I don't want these difficult relationships. I don't want these money troubles. But you want them without really knowing that you want them. You create them without realizing how you're doing it, because nobody has ever taught you properly. And that is why these teachings are coming through this being, because she is a clear channel and we use her regularly. And we thank her regularly for allowing us to do this teaching through her. She is not special. She is not more highly evolved than any of you. She is merely a being who has dedicated herself to the practice of forgiveness long enough and hard enough to clear a way for truth. And that is what we want to encourage all of you to do. We want you to know that this connection, this direct connection to pure loving guidance, is possible for all of you. And that was always what I taught on the earth plane. I did not teach about suffering and sacrifice. I did not teach about war. I did not teach about punishment. I did not teach about any of those things. I taught these things, that through love and forgiveness, you will attain eternal life. And this is a very important point for all of you who are listening today, whether you are new or not. But you do not have to die in the way you do. You do not have to sicken in the way you do. You do not even have to age in the way you do. You can change that by aligning yourself with love. And this is the most important point here. Your judgment of the world, your hatred of others, your accusing and finger pointing and being manipulated by your mass media systems is what is causing you your intense suffering. And it is only through retraining the mind and letting go of the stories and beliefs that are not true. It is only in doing that that you will achieve peace. And in achieving peace, you will quiet the mind enough so that we may contact you. Many, many ascended master teachers, highly evolved extraterrestrial beings, and masters that you've never heard of are here now to assist you in your ascension process. And that is the most important thing for you to know, that even though you seem to be isolated in this separate body, even though you seem to have been abandoned by God, we will tell you, God has not abandoned you. You have abandoned God. You came into this place to chase your idols, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, money, power, whatever is your game. It can even be sickness and victimhood can be your friend. It can be the thing that you want to experience. Those things are your idols, and they must be given up. And they must be given up voluntarily. They cannot be given up when you still want them. And this is something of a paradox, and we want to address that here in this opening statement. We want you to know that it is in following your dreams, it is in pursuing your passions, it is listening to your heart, doing what you want. In doing that, you will find out that a lot of the things that you want aren't what you thought they were at all. And it is through this voluntary experiencing of your passions and your purpose that you eventually let all of them go. It is like that perfect date that you think, well, if only I could go out with that person, and if only I could marry that person. You've all had this experience, and you get to know them and you spend time with them, and then you marry them, and then you find out that they have all of these faults and foibles, and they are not what you dreamt of at all. And in fact, you realize that it was a fantasy that you held in your heart and your mind, and it was not a real person at all. The real person is incredibly disappointing to the fantasy that you held. And this is true of most of the things that you think will make you happy. But we cannot take away your free will. You must pursue your free will right to the end. And that is how you wake up. You pursue your free will, you play with the things you want to play with, and you do what you came here to do, which was to be the unique experiencing you that you are. Eventually, however, you get tired of experiencing, you get tired of chasing after one dream after another, and eventually you realize none of these things make me happy. And that is when we say you become teachable. You become teachable when you realize that nothing outside of you is enough to make you happy. There are a million things you can choose in this world, and eventually you get tired of them and from them. What do you do when that happens? Well, you begin to go inside, you begin to quieten down, you begin to contemplate, perhaps there is another way. And that is when we come to you, when you say, perhaps there's another way, perhaps there's something I don't know that I need to know because what I'm doing is not working. And this is a powerful, powerful moment in your free will journey, when you open your mind enough to say, perhaps there is another way. And that is the way that we are offering. It is the way through the shadows. It is the way through the dark nights, many dark nights sometimes of your soul, where you realize that a lot of the things you believe in are not loving, and they do not work, and they do not create the life you want to create. Now, this world seems to have become very, very complicated, and we want to address one of the questions that has been posed, which is, how do you deal with the coming changes on your planet? How do you maintain a high frequency when you are being bombarded by clearly chaotic and crumbling systems? Well, this is the reason that this being began to pen the books that she did 6 years ago. So for those of you that truly want to know the answer to that, read all 6 books that this being has written. She has gracefully and willingly done that for all of you. These books should not sit on your shelves, and they should be contemplated and reread a few times. There's a lot of information in each of those books. That is the groundwork that you have to be willing to do as students of this teaching. You also have to be willing to contemplate doing A Course in Miracles, because if you are not doing A Course in Miracles, you will be trying to fix your problems with a contaminated mind. You will be trying to fix your problems with a very fearful mind, a mind that has often run riot with you and has miscreated situations and relationships and financial problems that are quite difficult for you to extricate yourself from. This is one of the great issues that many of you fear when we speak about the system changing, because you see that you're painted into a corner with many of the commitments that you make, whether they be mortgages or children or marriages or houses or careers. All of these things are fabrications of your society. We want you to think back 200 or 300 years, 2,000 or 3,000 years, and we would like you to imagine some of the indigenous populations on your planet. Just think about the variety of indigenous peoples, from the Inuit to the Native Americans in North America, to the South American cultures, to the Aborigines in Australia, to the Maori cultures in New Zealand, to the Far Eastern cultures. Just think of the magnificent variety and intricacy of all those beautiful developments. Well, they are being washed away now by the Western virus, we will call it, the modern technological globalized system that is penetrating every corner of this planet. But if you look back to those past cultures, you will see that they had different languages, they had different ways of producing food, they had amazingly different art, they had unique qualities that allowed the beings incarnated into those societies to have unique experiences. And this is what we want you to remember, that the system in which you find yourself is very, very recent. It is very, very new in the terms of technology and industry, merely 100, 200 years or so, which is nothing compared to the history of your planet. We want you to remember how resilient humanity is. We want you to look back on the magnificent structures in your society, cathedrals and pyramids and histories and books and libraries and amazing things like that. And we want you to remember that humans are creative and innovative and very clever and very resilient. And you are all of those things. You have merely been trained out of it. And so if you are plugged into TVs, and if you are plugged into Netflix all the time, and if you are kept away from nature by your beliefs, yes, you are only ever kept away from living in nature by your beliefs and by the propaganda marketing systems of your society. You are all free beings. You all get to choose what it is you invest your time in. You all get to choose what it is you spend your money on. You all get to choose how you educate yourself. You all get to choose whether you're loving or hateful. You all get to choose whether you eat healthy foods or unhealthy foods. You are demonstrating in your life your free will at play. And we must underline this for you, because many of you play the victim. Many of you say, well, I can't break out of this system. It's too powerful. There are too many forces at play. And we will tell you, each one of you is like a god. Each one of you has a tremendous amount of energy that you can decide on where you spend it. You can prioritize today to make new choices. You can prioritize tonight to make new choices. You cannot turn on your TV and watch the endless, relentless news stream coming through there that is designed to frighten you. What is it frightening you with now? Economic collapse, invasions by immigrants, whatever the story is, impending nuclear war. The fear that it creates in you is exactly what the system wants, because that fear keeps you small. That fear makes you cower in the corner of your apartment and your house, and it makes you unable to create the life that is your right, that is your natural inheritance. All of us on this side of the veil have experienced incarnations. We know what it's like to live in bodies. We know what it's like to be afraid. We know what it's like to have to work to get food on the table. We all have had that experience or some variation of that experience. And so we know how the mind works. We know how fear works, and we know how your society works. We have been watching it develop, and we have been working our very hardest to bring truthful information to you and practical lessons to you so that you may take back your hearts and minds. And that is what this teaching is for. It is so that you can take back your hearts and minds. And instead of saying, how do I get rid of that politician, or how do I deal with the problems of my life, you start to admit that you are the creator, you are the focuser, you are the one that is attracting things to you over and over again by your choice. And it is in that self-empowerment, that self-realization, for that is what awakening is. It is a going from victimhood to self-realization. In that process, you come to see that you get to choose. You get to choose every single day what it is you want. And so all of you must look at your lives and go to yourselves, I have made this happen. These things I'm focusing on, I want. Why? Because I'm focusing on them. They bring me something. Even if they bring me anger, that feels awful, but it gives me a little bit of feeling of being alive. It is better than feeling dead at my dead-end job or in my unhappy marriage. These are big issues for you to tackle these days. And with the changes that are coming to your planet, we cannot encourage you enough to begin the lessons of A Course in Miracles, or stick with them if you have not already started. And if you are unwilling, just buy the book and have the book sitting around with you on the coffee table by your bed at night. And if you hate that book, all the more reason to buy it, because if you hate that book, or you despise those teachings, or you don't like the words, then that hatred, that despising, that not liking is in your mind, and that is part of the problem. It is only words. It should never inspire anger or rage or resentment or resistance in you. There is something in you that is producing those feelings, and that is the same with everything. It is easy to see when a book upsets you and you realize, well, a book should not upset me because it's just a book. It's just little black squiggles on white paper. Why does that upset me? There must be something in me. It is an inanimate object. The action, the reaction, the emotions are coming from me. And with a book, that's easy to see. But it's not so easy to see when you have a living, breathing, arguing enemy across the way from you or on your television. That is not so easy to see, that the reactions and the emotions and the fears and the judgments are in you. You feel that that person, place, thing, or experience is the problem. It is what is causing you your suffering. But we say a book is exactly the same as a human being. The problem is within your mind and your heart, and that is where you must go to solve the problem. And it is no different with the changes in your society. If you believe that changes in your society are going to cause you problems, then there is a hidden meaning in that conclusion, which means that the society as it is now is better than it will be when it changes. And that is why you are fearful, because you believe that the changes and the imminent dissolving of the current system is worse than the system being in place. And we will say, you don't know the answer to that question. You only know this system. You have all been raised in this system of education and religion and fear and shame and guilt and money and TV and advertising and propaganda. It's the only system you know. So when you are told that the system that you know is going to change, the ego will go into fear. And that is what we want to address in answering this initial question. You must understand that the ego, when it doesn't know something, will always tell you that it's worse than the devil you do know. And that's the society you have now. But all of you look at your society that you have now and you understand that it cannot continue as it is. It cannot continue destroying the very trees that give you the air you breathe. It cannot continue polluting the water that is your life's blood, that you cannot live without. Killing the bees that are going to pollinate the food that you want to eat. You cannot keep going the way you are, and you must look at the truth. You must understand that to want it to stay the same is insanity. It truly is an extinction level event, and you must accept that that is so. And so we want all of you who know that changes are coming to do your best to prepare for those changes, first of all, by changing your mind. When you change your mind and you take your foot off the brake of saying, I can't handle any changes, please God, let it stay the same. When you change your mind and say, I know it cannot stay the same, I am willing to shift and change a little bit. Do what you can today to shift and change a little bit. If you are in an urban environment, we say have a little extra food and water on hand. Now, we know that these kinds of advice give you fear, but that is a choice too. That means that your mind is wandering. That means that you are not in charge of your thoughts. Instead of seeing it as a positive, it's a precarious system delivered by trucks who need gasoline. Perhaps the gasoline won't be there one day. Perhaps the truck won't get to the store one day. It is intelligent. It is not fear-mongering. It is intelligent to have some extra food in your house, to have some extra water in your house. These are logical things if you are in an urban environment. It is a miracle that you all go to the grocery stores every day and find food there. Let us tell you, it is a very, very precarious system. There are many of you that have been listening to this teaching for a while who have begun to change, who have walked away from jobs that they didn't like, have gone back to educate themselves in something that is more appropriate, that is more in alignment with their feelings right now in this part of their life. And for those of you that have done that, we really, really commend you, because you are following the guidance that we are giving you. Yes, Spirit is giving all of you guidance every single day in how to adapt and change in advance of the need for that change. You cannot change after the event has happened. You must change in advance of the event, and that means that you are listening to your guidance. Many of you will have had the feeling that you want to live in a more rural environment for years and years and years. And yet you have been overriding or arguing with that guidance. Well, we will tell you that it's your cultural conditioning programs that keep you in the prison in which you find yourselves. And we want you to know that unless you do something to re-educate your mind, the conditioning programs brilliantly constructed and effectively employed in your society, they will win out, and you will be sitting in a city crumbling around you, and you will be too frightened to leave it, even though it will be your end. And so we want you to listen to your guidance. Are you getting guidance to pay down your debts because they are crippling you and keeping you in a prison of work that you can't stand? That is spiritual guidance. Any little nagging voice that says, do this, do this, do this, will be your guides and teachers telling you that you need to shift the trajectory of your life, because at some point it is not going to work for you. It does not come in one fell swoop. It comes in little tiny nudges every single day. Go back to school, educate yourself in healing modalities. Or it says, don't buy that piece of pastry, go and buy some apples instead. This is how spiritual guidance works. And it's very, very important for all of you to understand that your growth is dependent on you listening to your guidance. But your guidance is often contaminated, and it is through studying the lessons of A Course in Miracles and preparing for that by reading the books that this being has penned that you will begin to get clearer and clearer guidance. And many of you who have completed A Course in Miracles will remember the resistance to it, the fears, the troubles that it seemed to cause you. And yet after a few years, you understand that it is the very thing that has saved you from a life of suffering and pain and unhappiness. And so we want you to understand that, yes, the early days of A Course in Miracles and these early days of spiritual evolution are challenging, because you are truly seeing what is going on inside your mind. You're truly seeing how fearful you are. You're truly seeing how confused you are. And we want you to know that we are all here for you. We are all here ready to communicate with you. And as the frequencies of your planet go up, more and more and more of you are going to be able to have direct conscious contact. But do clarify your minds, dear ones. Do open up your hearts and listen to that inner guidance that tells you to do more healthy things, that guides you along a path specifically designed for you. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I know that that was a very long introduction for those of you who are regulars, but we want to encourage those of you that are visiting to understand that this is a deep, deep well that you have fallen into, and sometimes you are at the bottom, feeling that you look up and see that the light is so far away. But we want you to know that there are beings up there in the light, and we will throw you a rope. You must ask, however. We are not allowed to pull you out of the deep well that you've taken yourself down into if you do not ask us for help. And so that is the main point of our introduction here. Ask for help and use your wonderful intelligence, your discernment, and your ability to choose the good, to choose the loving, to choose the kind for yourself and for others. Do not neglect to apply those principles to yourself. It is one of the great omissions of Western society, doing for others to the detriment of your own health and your own self-expression. You must honor yourself first, be kind to yourself first, and get yourself and your mind, your health and your body and your basic life in order first before you start helping too many other people. It does not mean that you can't help a friend move or you can't help someone out with a little bit of money here and there, but do dedicate yourself right now to healing your own mind, healing your own body, and getting yourself on the straight and narrow path home towards love. We will return shortly. Woo! That was quite an introduction. Okay. I can't do the chat. So sorry, my mind cannot do that. It's just a bit too much for me to cope with. So Jesus did answer a couple of questions that people had asked there. Okay, somebody asks, please can Jesus or Ananda explain the definition of spirituality? It may seem like a simple question, but I feel a very relevant one. I feel the explanation could help me and others who experience blocks in being able to fully express our spiritual practice in fear of judgment. Okay. Let me just have a little sip of tea. And we'll see what Ananda has to say. We're with you again, dear ones. We say thank you all for joining us in this broadcast. Those of you who know us, of course, we love you. We are with you always. And the new beings here, we are very pleased that you are joining us in this live streaming. You will be getting an energetic upgrade through this process. We want you to know that these energetic upgrades are real indeed. There are many, many breakthroughs happening to beings who share the regular live streaming events with our dear one, with us, with Jesus, and the other beings who do not always make themselves known through this channel. What is spirituality, and how do you resolve your practice with what seems to be a very judgmental society? Well, you do not have to worry about this at all. A spiritual practice is an internal process. You do not have to tell people what you are up to. Every single being on this planet is having a spiritual experience. You are all having feelings. You are all getting guidance. You are all riddled with fears and joys and confusion and emotion and happiness and addiction. And all of these experiences are your incarnational manifestations, and they are all spiritual. This is one of the things that we want to clarify in answering this question. You get confused in your society and think that spiritual people have to wear spiritual clothes and wear crystals around their necks and have pyramids on their beds. No, they don't. Everyone is spiritual. Everyone is a spiritual being having a physical experience. Some of you are aware of it and some of you are not aware of it. What you are asking with this question is, should the ones who are aware of it tell the ones who are not aware of it what's going on? Well, that's a possibility, but we would not suggest that you focus on sharing your spiritual experience with anyone unless you are guided to do it in the moment. This is a very, very important thing to understand, that if you are proselytizing and pushing your beliefs on other beings, that is not loving, even though you may perceive that your spiritual beliefs are more loving than the other person. Everyone has free will. Everyone has a karmic incarnational history. This does not mean punishment. It means that they have a history that has brought them to the place that they are at. Your history has brought you to the place that you are at. And your job is to work on clarifying your alignment. That is what an incarnation is for. That is your true spiritual work. To remove from your mind that which is unloving, in whatever form it arises. It can be that you're unloving to yourself, or it can be that you're unloving to other beings, or you can be unloving to politicians or other races or other nationalities. It's all unlovingness, and it all needs to be let go of. That is what your incarnation is for. And if you don't let go of your unlovingness, you will suffer. That is the simple practice that all of you are being given the opportunity to experience. So those beings who don't know that they're having a spiritual experience are generally more confused than those of you who know that you're having a spiritual experience. But a lot of you who are having a spiritual experience in awareness are still confused because you think that your responsibility lies in healing everyone else's mind. No, it doesn't. It lies in healing your own mind. It is there that all of the problems of your world start. So the problem with this view of spirituality, that you cannot express it for fear of judgment, means that you are having your own mind revealed to you. The issue there is that you are afraid of other people's judgment. This is your problem. It is not the other people's problem. It is your problem, because what that means is that you think their opinion of your spiritual practice is more important than your opinion of your spiritual practice. And that is not true. And that is why this question makes you feel uneasy, or it makes you unhappy, because you are out of alignment with truth. It's nobody's business what you're doing internally, as it is not your business what somebody else is doing internally. What we want you to understand is that that takes a lot of discipline to be able to not take things personally. This is a great teaching, to not take things personally, because everybody else is a character in your dream, and they are playing roles that you have assigned to them. So when you have mixed emotions or fears about being persecuted for your spiritual practice, guess what will show up in your dream? People who persecute you for your spiritual practice, because it is your fear, it is your worry, it is in your mind. It doesn't feel good, and so you lay it on other people. But that is projection. That is how this all works. You cannot encounter this kind of fear unless you believe in it, unless you are the one that doubts your spiritual practice. For once you are confirmed in your spiritual practice, once you know that what you know and experience is true for you, and you are unwavering in that spiritual practice, it will not matter what anyone else thinks. You won't care, because you know that you have figured something out for yourself. You've figured out that if you're unhappy and suffering, you're wrong, you're off track. You will figure out that if you're relaxed and happy and contented, then you're on the right pathway. You don't need to worry about other people's suffering. Now, this is one of the great problems in your training. You think that if you worry and wring your hands and fret over other people's suffering, that makes you a good person. No, it doesn't. It makes you a sad person, a disillusioned person, a fearful person, and an angry person. What we want you to understand is that if you deal with your own mind, your own distortions, your own suffering, then you will be much better suited and able to help more people. Now, the training program of A Course in Miracles talks about, as you see your brother, so you will see yourself. And this is what we mean here. If you judge someone else as being judgmental, that is what your experience gets to be. If you look at your brothers or sisters and say, I do not care what their judgments are, in the sense that you're not attached to them, then you will be freer, because you will not be imposing upon yourself the fear of their judgment. For that is what all of you are doing when you are limiting yourselves. You are afraid of what others will think of you. And this is trained into you in your school systems. What does a teacher do when they want to put you in your place? Well, they will shame you somehow. They will make you stand in the corner, or they will send you to the principal, or they will give you detention. They will punish you for doing something that they deem is out of order. And usually those things that are out of order in young children, we will say from 5 to 10 years old, is just children being children, children expressing opinions, children wanting to wiggle their bottoms out of their seats or climb a tree instead of being silent and rigid in a chair, which is completely unnatural. But in your society, you are punished for that, and you are shamed for that. And you learn day after day, year after year, even decade after decade with your education system, that you get rewarded if you do as you're told. And that is one of the greatest issues you have in this modern world, that you are trained to do as you're told. And this is where freedom comes in. This is where your true spiritual practice comes in. You must understand that you've been trained into domesticity and to do as you're told, rather than doing what you feel is right for you. And this is the revolution that you are a part of now. You must understand that to do what you feel is right for you is your obligation in this life. Otherwise, you will have to repeat. Rinse, wash, repeat. You will have to do it again. Freedom is love. Self-expression is love. Creation is love. You must redefine love. And that is what real spirituality is. Understanding that this vital life force, this inspiring energy that courses through you from the time you are born, is there for a reason, and it must be respected and honored. Otherwise, you will die. And that is why most of you die the way you do, because you do not respect the vital life force, the creativity, the multiplicity of ideas that you get through your lifetime for new paintings, drawings, writings, conversations, inventions, travel plans, whatever it is. How many times do you quash those ideas and say, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it? And it is that I can't do it program, I don't have enough money program, I must do as I'm told program, that will kill you and make you sad. But you are still a spiritual being. It is still your spiritual practice. Whatever you are doing is a spiritual practice. And some of you will get to the end of your life and you will say, I did not get it. And the answer to that will be, that's okay. We're going to give you another chance to go back in and get it. But we say, why not take advantage of this escalating energy, this evolving planet, and join in this love revolution? But you must first of all define spirituality and love correctly. And that is what this being has helped us do, is to pen those books so that you may study this material. And week after week, she brings forth beautiful teachings for you to practice. Sometimes you just argue with them. Sometimes you just resist them. But each week she is willing to bring forth this information so that eventually you will change. Eventually you will say, I'm sick of my story. I prefer the potential of a new story, a new life, a new energy system. And we encourage you to do that. We don't want you to be obsessed with the difficulties of this world, the difficulties of your current situation. We want you to focus on that which you want to experience. And eventually the current circumstances will fade away if you discipline your mind enough and you practice long enough, making new choices in the direction of that which you are seeking. So whether it's improved health, whether it's an improved love life, whether it's an improved financial situation, whether it's an improved planet, all require the same thing. They require you to understand that the next 1,000 decisions you make are important, and the next 1,000 thoughts you ruminate upon are important, and they are creative and they are powerful. And the more of you that are thinking about something, the more powerful you become. So when you are watching the news and you hear of the terrible things that are going on and the horrors that are happening on this planet, if you are focusing on those things, you are adding negative energy to an already overly negative planet, and you are not helping things. So turn it off, focus on that which you want: a healthy, fit body, a beautiful garden, a nice meal for your dinner, whatever it is. Focus on a good thing, a happy thing, a loving thing, and you will slowly but surely reap the rewards of your spiritual practice, whatever it is. It does not matter. It is all spiritual, and it will all be reviewed and analyzed at some point in your life review, and you will get to see, were the decisions that you made right? How do you know if they're right or wrong? You will feel better. You will feel happier. You will know that as you raise your frequency, the suffering decreases. So if any of you are out there are suffering, know that you are off track. You're looking at the world in the wrong way. And fortunately for you, these teachings are here, and we can assist you in reconfiguring your mind so that you can gaze upon the world with loving and forgiving eyes. We will return shortly. Okay. For those of you who don't normally see me live, I have to have a sip of my drink so that my throat can survive the hour and a half. So chat amongst yourselves for a moment. So we have a bit of a technical question here. It's about thinking, thoughts, what role they play, for instance, when reading inspiring texts like A Course in Miracles. What role do thoughts and thinking play? What role do thoughts play when they resurface in the form of past memory, for example, in reminding us of past addictions? What are the most effective tools or techniques to think less besides self-awareness? What overall role does thinking play in creation as opposed to only experiencing, which was the status before the fall? So for those of you that are new to these teachings, the fall is the idea of separation from love, which is the state in which we find ourselves now. That's why we suffer, because we're separated from love. So, thinking, remembering, effective tools. What role does thinking play in creation? Sounds like a question for Jesus. You are blessed beings indeed, and this is a very, very important question, because thinking is what drives you mad. It is not your experiences that are the problems. It is your thinking about the experiences that are the problems. So we will take a very, very simple example here. You are going for a walk and it begins to rain. You get your hair wet and you get your face wet. You don't have the right coat on. And so the mind begins, it shouldn't be raining. I wish it wasn't raining. I look really awful with wet hair. I'm going to get cold. I might get ill. I should rush home. Raining is stupid. I wish it was sunny. On and on and on. The mind will go. The thoughts are what will cause your suffering. You will hunch your shoulders. You will do that rain face that humans do when it's raining. This is a physical reaction caused by thought. If you say to yourself, I love the rain, I love how it feels on me, your body will shift, your face will change, and you will lift up your face to the heavens. You will put your arms out and you will say, I love the rain. Now you will say those are physical reactions, but they are derived from thought. And so this is the most important thing about this question is when you look at physical responses, when you look at physical problems, the way you're looking at them is what actually defines them as problems. When you understand that everything works together for good, that you are being shown things about your mind that you need to see in the form of physical manifestations, people, places, and things. You are being shown things that dwell deep within your consciousness that you don't want to see. However, Those things that dwell deep within your consciousness that you don't want to see generate thoughts. And this is what most of you are dealing with internally, is the thoughts that generate feelings, that generate behavior, but you don't know where they come from, and you give all thoughts equal time. We want you to understand that thinking is a process that is unconscious in most of you, and this is where the problems arise, that thinking is not directed by a trained mind. And this is what you learn as you go through the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Through the training program of repeating things more and more frequently, focusing the mind, dedicating the mind to more loving thoughts and principles and ideas. That's what those lessons are training you in. Instead of having thoughts about hateful things, you are directing your mind to repetitively repeat loving things. Through contrast, you are going to see that unconscious thinking and giving all your thoughts equal time is suffering inducing, and focusing on loving beliefs and concentrating on forgiveness practice and kindness brings relief from suffering. That is what the experience of training your mind through A Course in Miracles does. So thinking per se is not a bad thing. It's the frequency of those thoughts and the beliefs from which those thoughts are arising that will cause you suffering or not. So if in your conditioned training programs you have been trained that the way you look is not valuable, let's say you're not considered attractive by your society and you want to be attractive by your society's terms, you might think over and over again, I am ugly, I'm not attractive, I'm not valuable, nobody will love me. Those thoughts are going to cause deep suffering. If you train your mind and you begin to learn that the more loving your thoughts are, the less suffering you feel, you are going to begin to see, it's not thinking per se, it's not thoughts per se, it's the frequency of the thoughts that I believe in and focus my mind on and voluntarily repeat over and over and over again. So what techniques can we offer you to help with the thinking? Pay attention to which thoughts you are giving value to. Are they attacking thoughts, attacking yourself or someone else? Are they hateful thoughts? Are they unloving thoughts? If you're choosing to ruminate on unloving thoughts and fearful thoughts all the time, you are using your free will to generate fear, to generate hatred, to generate judgment, and you will suffer. Why? Because you are walking away from love. So pay attention to the frequency of the thoughts. If you have had a past addiction, and this is one of the aspects of this question, what we want you to know is that there's still a part of the mind that wants that addiction. And so it will take you back to the addiction in an effort to get you to cave into that addiction again. This is a part of the mind that's still trained in a particular way. How do you deal with that? You understand what's happening, you pay attention and say, that is not a thought that I want to pursue. So I am going to, through free will and discipline, bring my mind back into the present moment and focus on something that I want more of. Do you want more of the addiction? No, you don't. That's incorrect use of memory. That's sloppy thinking. That means that your mind is not well trained. You're allowing it or even wanting it to go back to tell you that story. If only I could have that substance or action again, we would feel better. That is a belief. And that is a very, very important thing to understand, that you get to use your memory for what you want it for. You do everything because you want it. You choose everything because you want it. Even if you have an old wound and you go back and you think, I hate that person, I don't want this. If you didn't want it, you would not go back to that memory, to that sin, to that crime that you think they committed against you. If you really didn't want it, you wouldn't go back there and you wouldn't retrieve it and you wouldn't regurgitate it over and over again. The ego loves that stuff. And you must see that when you go back and retrieve those memories, you're re-abusing yourself. The abuser perhaps did it once, or the addiction perhaps did it once. But in you going back to what you perceive as the past and bringing it into this moment, you then become the abuser. And you must understand this. So what role does thinking have in creation? It has every role in that sense. Is as long as you are controlled by your thinking and you are not controlling your thinking, then you are going to be miscreating all over the place. You are going to be having old memories occupying this creative now. Remember, everything that you are going to experience in the future is affected by this now moment. Yes, there are preordained and predestined things that you will inevitably experience, but there are a lot of free will choices along that path. And that is what will really set the tone of your life, is your free will focus. Where does that focus take place? It takes place in the eternal now. You are always here now. There is no other place. There is no past. There is no future, because when you get to the future, it will be the eternal now. And in the past, it was that eternal now. So in terms of creation, you must understand that thinking now is important. And that is why the course lessons train your mind so that you know what you're thinking now, because it is here and now that the trajectory of your life is set in every moment. So thinking is very, very important, but you must remember it has to be a conscious process for it to be a benevolent process. You must be willing to keep looking at the good. You must be willing to keep looking at the loving. You must be willing to keep looking at that which you eagerly anticipate experiencing in the future, so that you are in alignment with a future that you want to create. If you are talking about your sicknesses all the time, if you are complaining about your relationship all the time, if you are eating bad food all the time, you are using the eternal now to produce a future that's not going to be very much fun for you. So in that sense, thinking is very, very important. As a man thinketh, so he is. If you think that person is hateful, then you will experience hateful things in the future, not as a punishment, but because you are setting the tone of your creative abilities. You are made in the image of God in that sense. You are powerful, powerful creators. And your life, look around you, the partners you have, the homes you have, the current financial situation, all of these things are your choices based on what you've focused your mind on. So don't be a victim of your thinking, but be a master of your mind, and that will bring you a better future. Now, it is not instantaneous. There's a lot of momentum for a lot of you. There are a lot of unconscious beliefs that have to be brought to the surface slowly over time. You cannot have all of these beliefs brought to the surface. You would be horrified if you saw the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of beliefs you have that do not serve you. This is not something that you can fix in one day or 1 week or 1 year. Trust in life and trust in the means that you have been given to heal your mind, which is A Course in Miracles, and practicing it, not reluctantly resisting it, but practicing it willingly, understanding the principles that you are the projector, that everything that you are seeing and feeling is coming from within your own consciousness. And that is where the miracle happens, when you truly grasp that you are the creator of your experience through the way you think. We all love you very much, and we have on this side, in this particular gathering, we have done the work that you are in the process of doing, and we are here to encourage you, not to frighten you, not to overwhelm you. We are here to encourage you, because we know the benefit of peaceful mind. We know the benefit of being in alignment. We know what you will not have to experience anymore. You will not have to experience sickness. You will not have to experience death as you understand it. You will not have to experience the drudgery of incarnation after incarnation, repeating the same lessons over and over again. We cannot emphasize the magnificent gifts you will receive from mastering your mind. We will return. All right. All right. This is for Ananda. Is it possible to live an adequately abundant, normal human life and manifest necessary physical material objects, reality, with the power of light from our level of consciousness and thus bypass the entire money system? Or is such a thing possible only post-enlightenment? If yes, how? Very good question. Okay, let's see what Ananda says. We're with you again, dear ones. This was addressed a little bit in a previous question, this idea of looking at societies before the modern money-focused workaholic world in which you live. And there are many things that you can look at, many systems that you can look at that don't have money. For example, the birds and the bees, we will say. You understand what we mean by that. Animals that are foraging freely in nature find a way to live. And yes, some of them don't make it through the winter, but some of you don't make it either in your urban environment. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to be healthy and happy in your environment. In fact, it's becoming less and less so. And this is one of the reasons that these interventions are being made on your planet. Can you manifest a healthy life through systems of consciousness manifestation other than money? Of course you can. That is what happened before the money system was invented. This system of paper money is a very recent addition to your planet. It is used to disconnect you from your creative process, and it has done a magnificent job. Why are these things allowed, you ask yourself? Well, doesn't spirit know what's good and bad, and why would it let this happen? Well, this is a place of self-expression. This is a place of you are free to do whatever you want with your free will. And those beings that have decided that they would rather be rich than kind have used their free will to create systems that have affected you in a negative way, unbeknownst to you. But most of you are really, really beginning to feel this now. And this is really what's driving this revolution. You are all getting very, very unhappy with the status quo. You are all getting very, very unhappy with the fact that two of you have to work 50, 80, 100 hours a week to make the basic payments in your life. You realize that you are slaves in a prison that has no bars. And this is where this question comes from. It comes from innate sanity, innate intelligence, this idea that there must be a better way to live. But what's happened for all of you is you've been seduced into wanting things like $100,000 renovations on your home, 72-inch television screens, 10-year post-secondary education bills, all of these sorts of things. You will notice, for example, in the Americas, that this is considered normal, that you will go to university and you will indebt yourself $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, so that when you start your career, you will be in fear from day one. This is an indoctrination, and this is considered a failure if you don't get your children to college. We would argue the opposite, that it is actually a kind thing not to get your children in that much debt, not to get yourself in that much debt to put your children through university. Let them live their lives. Let them go out and find their way. How do you do this in this post-industrial society that is riddled with technology, where phones cost $1,500 and your wages are $8 an hour? What a terrible, terrible system this is. Well, all you can do is understand how it's created, how it's manipulated, how you are participating in that system. You must say, well, I'm not going to buy the new $1,500 phone and indebt myself further and increase my imprisonment. I am going to keep using the old phone I have. I'm going to buy a secondhand phone. I am, in fact, going to use my phone less. I'm going to get less data. I'm going to spend less money on the Wi-Fi systems that you are sucked into buying. This is a beginning. You may find that you're spending $100 a month less, for example, because you've made this decision. Well, you've stepped $100 away from that system, and you are using your free will to choose a different way of being. And when those friends of yours tease you because you don't have a new phone, you can say, you know what? I'm saving $100 a month towards a life that's better, a future that's better, freedom to do things that I want to do, to live in a way that's less stressful. I actually think I'm making a good decision, so your teasing doesn't affect me. I'm proud of what I'm doing. And you can make that in other ways too. Instead of buying the new $45,000 gas-guzzling SUV that's on the commercials, you can decide that you're going to hang on to the used car you've got, and you're going to have to spend a little bit of money on it to keep it going, yes, but you are going to take that $300 or $400 a month that would go on a payment to another part of your life that you want to develop. Now you're looking just with those two decisions. Decisions, remember, you're using your mind. You're using your mind to choose in the eternal now what you want your future to look like. You may now have access to $400 or $500 more a month than the person who is unconscious, who's just bought a new phone and just bought a new SUV. You are walking towards freedom. You are now going to have either more money to invest in something you want, perhaps education in a subject that is more in alignment with the higher frequencies of your new planet. Perhaps you're going to study a modality of healing that is energetic and feels good to you and that your guidance is leading you towards. And you may put that $400 or $500 a month into classes and into studying and into some health foods. And you will find that the trajectory of those two beings, the one that chose the SUV and the new phone and the one that didn't and kept the old car, you will find that in 3 or 4 years, they are in very different places. One is still paying those high car payments and they're beginning to need a new phone now, and the car's, well, it's 4 years old and they're getting a good offer with low interest rates, and they may just flip that all over and do it again. But the person who took a step off that path will be happier. Perhaps they have made new friends who are also holistic practitioners. Perhaps they've met someone who wants to set up a little business and they have decided that they're going to rent an office together and get together and share the rent. And now they're both doing something that they love. And that is how you create without money. You choose to step away from the system that insists you spend your money on things that are not going to improve your life inherently. Yes, your ego gets a boost by the new phone. Yes, your ego gets a boost by the shiny SUV with the leather seats. But do you really want to strengthen your ego? Is that what this place is for? Well, in actual fact, it is for that. And that is why many of you follow those prescriptions. That is why you are led down the garden path, because the designers of your system know that you have powerful egos, and that most of the time, because you're not educated, the ego is in charge and the emotionality is guaranteed to arise sooner or later, and you will sign up for that expensive new toy. It is only through your education with teachings such as this that you will learn that you are inevitably the creator of your experience, but you must take back your free will. That is what's going on this planet now. You've got the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, and the working middle class are realizing that they are not very happy and they are beginning to make different choices. Not everybody is making different choices, but there is a significant shift happening. And because of the revelations that are happening through your alternative media systems, more and more and more of you are realizing that the propaganda machine does not have your best interests at heart, and you had better take your mind back. The biggest issue that most of you face, and we've repeated this many times, but we will say it here again, is that you don't realize the profound programming that you have experienced in this post-industrial time. It is important for you to dedicate time to reclaiming your free will, to reclaiming your mind, to step away from the conditioned programs of your society, because it is it is those programs that lead you into these densely urbanized technology rule systems, away from food, away from nature, away from community. And it is there that you suffer the most. And it is there that you are at risk the most, because as these systems shift and change, you are the most vulnerable. If you're living in a high-rise apartment hooked into TV and hooked into your phone and hooked into the money system, hook, line, and sinker, it is you that is going to be the most vulnerable when these systems begin to shift and change. If you make those steps using your free will and your creativity, your innate ability through your consciousness to change your world, knowing that that's how you do it, nobody's going to do it for you, you must do it. You are changing your frequency every single time you say, I don't want that future. You can get to a fork in the road and see a decision that you have to make. What road is that decision going to take me down, and what road is this decision going to take me down? If eating donuts and buying new phones and buying new cars all the time is going to take me down this road, follow it for a few years. And if not spending all your money and not overindulging in certain foods and habits is going to improve your health and your financial situation, follow that trajectory for a few years and ask yourself, where are you going to be in 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years? Honestly, ask yourself that question. But what the systems of advertising and teaching in your society know is that most of you won't go inside and you won't ask that question. We are asking you to ask that question. What will this look like if I keep doing this? Is this a positive thing? If everybody does this, what will the world look like? Imagine if everybody stopped spending so much money on the latest shiny things that your society wants you to buy and invested it in healthy education and healthy food and healthier decisions around housing and these kinds of things. The world would begin to look better, would it not? Yes, the systems would be unhappy. Yes, the powers that be would start to call it a recession. But you in your wisdom, you in your knowledge would understand that you are making healthier choices for a healthier family, a healthier future. Can you overcome the money system? It will take a while. You're deeply indoctrinated in it. And most of you are not willing to step away from it, not even one little bit. But we challenge you to do that. We challenge you to look at where you're spending your money. Is it valuable? Is it healthy? What road is that road going to take you down? Should you put aside a little bit of money each month for something that is healthier, something more in alignment with your beliefs and ideas and the future that you want to see for yourself? We say, yes, it is a very good idea. And you may be surprised how much money you can spend on those things that you want. Consciousness is everything. Mind is everything. Everything you do, everything you think, everything you feel comes from the perceptual frequency that you hold. If you are unhappy, if you're unhealthy, if you're poor, then you must change the frequency of the perceptions. You must change the focus of your perceptions. And unless you are trained in those things, you will not know how to do it, because you keep using the same mind to try and solve the problems that mind has voluntarily participated in. So it is impossible to fix your own mind. This is why the lessons of A Course in Miracles and the books and studying this kind of material, and yes, we repeat ourselves, we know, but it is important. You learn your times tables because you repeated it every day. They know how to train you. We know how to train you. The question is, which training are you going to employ, theirs or ours? Are you going to keep going down the route of consumerism and environmental devastation and political corruption and financial degradation? Or are you going to go towards love, knowing that that frequency will manifest and create healthier, happier experience is here for you. Now, ultimately, your goal is to leave this place. It is to evolve out of this unloving frequency into a more loving one. And eventually, you will all do that. You will have the opportunity to do that over and over again until you succeed. But we are encouraging you in this incarnation to focus on it more and to achieve that which is a miracle. A mind healed, a mind free of hatred, a mind free of judgment, connected to all that is, guided by love and guided by a true understanding of what freedom and creativity and choice is. We will speak to you again shortly. Whew. They're really putting a lot of words into today. All right. We have time for one more question. And yes, I know it does go quickly, but that's why we do it every couple of weeks. Just a reminder for those of you that are visitors, the monthly payment is $33 a month, and we do 2 sessions. 2 sessions every calendar month. You also get deep discount notifications on recordings of retreats that I do. I do put those up in the shop at channelingjesus.com, and subscribers do get notification of those deep discounts. Okay. I would like to hear what Jesus or Ananda have to say about shame, the feeling of being wrong or bad, as opposed to having done something wrong or bad. I would like to understand how shame has influenced and impacted our ability to return to love, how it may hold us back from shining our light, and also how pervasive shame is in terms of its influence on humanity. Personally, I have just now had a revelation or epiphany of this deeply buried feeling of shame. I am seeing the way shame has been the hidden emotional influencer beneath a number of challenges I've faced, including anxiety, financial lack, stunted creativity, physical and structural health issues, and hiding as a leader and teacher, spiritual messenger. Very nice question. So shame, the feeling of being wrong or bad, as opposed to having done something wrong or bad. Okay, let's see what Ananda says. We're with you again, dear ones. Your cultural foundations, the Catholic Church, are profound influences in this area. And a lot of you that feel shame will have had early Catholic teachings. You are born a sinner, and you are pathetic in the eyes of God, and you are made bad from day one. This is the kind of teaching that will indoctrinate shame into a consciousness, is this idea that you are bad innately. And that really is the fundamental structure on which your society is built. Now, it all looks very modern and shiny and technological, but these teachings are pervasive in your society. The idea of sacrifice. What is sacrifice? Sacrifice is you deeming yourself less valuable than someone else. That is shame. Somebody else has more importance than you. What is suffering? The whole suffering that the church would talk about. If you're suffering, what is the image that the church portrays? Christ hanging on a cross, starving, suffering. Suffering means you're good. Suffering means you're holy. Suffering means you'll go to heaven. These are the fundamental teachings which most of you have forgotten, but these images and icons remind you all the time of these teachings. Your parents telling you that you're a bad little girl or a bad boy, smacking your bottom when you're playing or coloring, or you accidentally knock something over. That's shaming. Telling you that natural feelings of sexual energy are dirty and need to be hidden and that you are bad. Shaming. Most of these things happen when you're young. You don't even remember them. The teachers, again, in your classroom, shaming you when you don't know the answer, punishing you for being yourself, telling you off, giving you detention, bad grades when you can't understand a principle or an idea, and telling you that you should be able to. There must be something wrong with you. These are all shaming activities that are unloving in your society and across the board pervasive in many, many of the families and religions in which you are raised. Why would anybody do this to a child? They would do it because they don't know any better. That's the case for most of the parents that have shamed their children. But the systems themselves know that if somebody feels innately worthless, innately unlovable, innately unvalued, that they will not rise up in revolution. And that is why we are here, because we want you to rise up in a love revolution and a revolution of self-respect and self-appreciation. Because if you love yourself and don't have shame about just being who you are, then you will connect with your guidance, and your guidance will take you higher and higher and higher up that trajectory home to love. But if you can teach a being that they're worthless, that they're unlovable, that they're valueless, then you have them for life. So this is a very, very powerful teaching in your society, and we want you to know that nobody can undo that training except you. You must begin to feel it, and this is a wonderful, wonderful realization that this question asker has had, that this feeling of shame, this deep lack of self-love affects their whole life. Yes, everything is coming from you. When you have a profound belief that you are unworthy or unlovable, you literally are sending out a frequency that says, don't give me anything good, don't love me, don't appreciate me, I am a worthless sinner. And your life will reflect it. You will not be able to act out of accord with a fundamental belief such as that has been indoctrinated into you so early that you don't remember it. So when you believe that you're unworthy, even if it's unconsciously, when a new thing comes in, a new job opportunity, let's say, or an opportunity to increase your value, your wealth, if the opportunity is counter to that profound core belief, you will not be able to align with it. Because that deep ingrained belief that you're worthless and powerless and bad will not allow that new bright light in. And so when you realize that you feel shame or that you feel this lack of self-love, the first thing often is to feel shame about the shame, to feel bad about the way you see yourself. But no, these are the realizations that come from doing A Course in Miracles, because it is such a mind transforming program that it will reveal to you the deep, dark hatreds that you are in your normal consciousness unaware of. And that is why it's such a challenge. It is a challenge because you actually don't want to see this stuff. You actually don't want to reveal to yourself these fearful and unloving ideas because they don't feel good, but they are creating all the time, and you cannot change something until you see it, until you know that it's there. And so we say congratulations to this person who sees that they're riddled with shame. Now you know what the problem is. Now you can bring it up to the surface, and now you can offer it up for healing and say, I don't want this shame anymore. Show me how to get rid of it. Well, shame is unloving behavior, beliefs about yourself. So you must address where you are unloving to yourself. You must ask to be shown because you have hidden it from yourself using your free will and your immense creative powers. This is what this world is. It is a grand projection. You have put outside of yourself everything that you don't want to look at, everything that frightens you, everything that you hate. And so you must be willing to look at these things and say, oh, there it is. There is that core belief that is showing up all around me in many, many different forms. And this is why it is a bit of a waste of time constantly trying to change the form, because this particular form is only one tiny facet of that deeply held belief. So it is through the internal work of self-revelation, revealing to yourselves the shadows that you hide from yourself. It is in revealing those deep, dark secrets that you find the way to change the physical manifestations that are creating themselves all the time, all around you. The bad relationships, the bad health, the bad bank account, the inability to be free. These can all be different forms of the same deep internal self-loathing that most of you carry. So this sounds depressing, but it is not, because once you see it, then you can address it and you can bring it up into the light and you can offer it up for healing, and you can focus your amazing mind now on changing that belief that you have about yourself, that you're unworthy, that you're unlovable, that you are abandoned by God. These are all untrue ideas, and that is why they make you feel bad. We are Ananda. We are here to encourage you. We are here to teach you. And yes, some of these teachings are difficult because they do not blame other people. They do not lay the blame on the politicians and the economies as you want to do. You must take back your power if you want to change this world. It is a collective consciousness. You are like a giant beehive, and you are all working together for whatever it is you work together for. You must address that which you value and that which you ignore. You must decide why your life looks the way it does. If it's good and happy and you are cheerful, then keep doing what you're doing and address the problems as they arise. But if your life is difficult and you are sick and you don't like where things are, do the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Know that this is the means that you have been given from Christ consciousness, so that you may heal the disordered mind in which you find yourself and which is miscreating in front of your very eyes. We encourage all of you to join in this live streaming family. It is a wonderful, wonderful way to dedicate more time and more focus to your ascension process. What is your ascension process? It is the leaving behind of the fractured and frightened mind that you've been trained into. It is a reclamation of your ability to love and your ability to choose. And it is inevitable. So you can do it slowly or you can do it a little more quickly. And we would say these classes twice a month help you do it a little more quickly. And of course, we are Ananda. That means that we are non-physical beings. We are not bound by the physical laws of your world. We can connect with all of you at any time, and we will do so when it benefits you and when you are prepared for it. We thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again at another time. All right, my lovelies. Wow, it goes so quickly, doesn't it? Thank you all for joining me, new people, and of course, my beloved subscribers. Always lovely to see your names. We've been having some very, very good retreats, and Jesus had asked me to do as many retreats as I can. If you would like to get information on our retreats, we do not publicly advertise all of them. You can go to assistant.channelingjesus@gmail.com. I will type it in the comments here after I tune out here. But if you email that email address, Carol is there to answer those questions. She will give you information on all of our events. Love you all. Bye.